Welcome everybody to the Senior Concerns Seminar Series. I'm Martha Shapiro. I'm the Director of Programs at Senior Concerns, and I'm happy that you could join us today. This was originally scheduled in December, but it was on a terribly windy day and everybody was losing power. So I hope you don't mind that we postponed it and everybody can watch a little bit easier today. We don't have to worry about getting knocked off. I'm very excited for this topic today. But first, just a little bit of housekeeping. Somebody had asked if this is being recorded, and it is. It will be posted on the Senior Concerns website. If you go on seniorconcerns.org, there is a tab for events, and then you scroll down, and at the bottom is seminars. You can watch recordings of all of our past seminars, as well as sign up for any upcoming seminars right there on our website. So this will all be available to you. If you are not familiar with Senior Concerns programs, you can also look around our website and learn more about what we do in the community. Some of our core programs are we run the Meals on Wheels program for Thousand Oaks and Newbury Park, which has greatly expanded since COVID. So we are providing hot, fresh meals to seniors so that they can stay at home and be safe. We also have a volunteer grocery shopping service that we've set up to help you stay safe at home, as well as an emergency food pantry. Normally, we operate an adult daycare program. While that is on pause, we still offer lots of support services for family caregivers, including support groups over Zoom and one-on-one phone care consultations as well. And we have senior advocates that are always here to answer your questions about any issues related to aging or caregiving or benefits, Social Security, you name it. So please reach out to us if there's any way that we can help. So the seminar today is presented in the webinar format. So that means that you as the audience are in listen-only mode. So you are muted and we can't see you, but there are still ways for you to communicate with us. If you look on your computer screen and move your cursor around, you'll see there's two places you can talk to us. One is called the chat box. And I like to say if you need to chat to me, who's organizing it, if there's any technical difficulties or questions, you can put it there. If you have questions for our presenter on her program today, there's a Q&A that you click on and you can type your question in. She will answer questions at the end of her presentation, but go ahead and write your question in as soon as you think of it, because there's no need to worry about forgetting it. Just put it right in there and we'll get to them at the end of the program. So now I am happy to introduce our presenter today. The topic is financial self-defense, staying smart about common scams. And we are so fortunate today to have Debbie Deem with us. She's a former FBI victim specialist and the current financial abuse specialist team coordinator for Ventura County. She's a lifelong advocate for victims of crime, including human trafficking, domestic terrorism, child pornography, and chronic victims of fraud, targeting vulnerable adults. She has organized multidisciplinary teams to combat these forgotten crimes and support their victims. She has trained financial exploitation responders from the local level to the international level and has authored articles on the victims of financial and cyber crime, including most recently, The Neuroscience of Financial Scams with Dr. Landy for the DOJ Elder Justice Initiative. So we're so honored that she could take time to be with us today and share her expertise. So thank you, Debbie.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity to speak here today. I want to talk about a certain kind of financial fraud, but in general, financial fraud and exploitation really occurs when someone illegally or improperly uses a vulnerable or older adult's money, other property, or financial information. What our FAST team, or our Financial Abuse Specialist team, does here in Ventura County, we're a multidisciplinary group of public and private people, professionals who meet on a monthly basis in Ventura, volunteering our time to advise Adult Protective Services, the Ombudsman Office, local police, and others on matters of adult financial fraud and exploitation. We also receive training on various issues to help us better serve our victims in our communities. I also want to thank Martha and Senior Concerns for this opportunity to give this presentation and to provide you with the information to give you the tools and knowledge you need to practice financial self-defense. Hopefully this information that you will be able to share with your family and friends, because it's the best way I think that we all can learn from each other. So what we'll be talking about today, what is cybercrime, common types of cybercrime, what's a money mule or a money mover, how to stay safe for online, where to go to report if you've been a victim, and where to find additional help. So that's what we're going to cover in the next 45 minutes or so. I am going to be making this PowerPoint available to Martha to share with you all, so you will have a copy or access to a copy afterwards if you like. So let's go on. So what is a cybercrime? Cybercrime is basically any activity that uses the internet to access, transmit, or manipulate internet data for illegal purposes. Pretty basic definition. In cyber fraud crimes, this can include the fraudulent representation of a person, we call them an imposter, for financial gain, personal gain, or with other malicious intent. These crimes are often transnational, with criminals in a different country than the victims in. What does that matter? It makes it very, very difficult for any kind of investigation involving police or making arrests or prosecutions to happen. But even more important, it makes getting your money back more difficult because the FBI or other federal agencies can't go in and make arrests in other countries. So I urge you to be very cautious if you're doing any kind of financial dealing involving another country, because it's going to be much more difficult to hold that offender accountable and hopefully get your money. The other important definition I think it's important to think about is what a scam is. And a scam, the most basic, is a theft committed with a lie. So if you think you're involved with a scam, look for that lie. Look for what you think just might be too good to be true, just wasn't sound right, and more than likely you're caught up in a scam. Pretty basic definition on that. The other thing I think it's important to realize when we talk about scams, a lot of people think of it as can be, or maybe, being ripped by your, or just something that might happen to you locally. But while those things are serious, many of our victims of these cyber crimes and phone crimes may be seriously impacted and can be devastated both financially and emotionally, because a lot of times in our concerns, and I'm a senior myself, we're basically unable to earn that back oftentimes. And so the losses can be even more devastating. And they can affect things like divorces and impact, your financial retirement. They can impact financially and spiritually, the kind of house or the kind of aftercare and assisted living that you can afford. So many ways, even putting food on your table, can all be impacts of these kinds of crimes. The FBI warns that cyber crimes against older adults is really on the rise. There's been some statistics, and I want you to be careful with any of these statistics because we actually don't know how much this crime is really happening because many people do not report. Often they don't report to the national databases we'll be discussing because they don't know they exist. Maybe they report to the local police. Maybe they're too embarrassed to do so. But in addition to reporting to the local police, I want you to think about the reasons that we need to report nationally. First of all, we know that older people are more likely to be a victim of cybercrime than those earlier. And the latest statistics of those reporting show it's 33% more. We also know that older adults are more likely to lose more money in a scam than a younger person. We also know older folks have lost more than $835 million to cybercrime in 2019, according to the statistics that were accumulated by the FBI, so reports made to them. In addition, one of the most surprising things that you may not have heard about is a tech support or what they call computer repair crime. And losses in that are just devastating right now, and it's probably the #1 crime happening that's a serious crime happening to older adults. And the losses there were up 40% just over 1 year. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that kind of crime today. Why are older adults often targeted in this? I think a big reason going on right now, especially with our time of COVID, it's loneliness. A lot of times people might be recently widowed or divorced. Again, during COVID, we're isolated much more from our family and our friends and our daily routines. We're isolated almost from everybody in the real world, but unfortunately, we're not so isolated from the scammers that can attempt to reach us by our cell phones or our computers or even our telephones. Also, a lot of our scammers believe that older folks may be financially stable, that they've got a nest egg, they own their own home, they've got excellent credit. Oftentimes they were depression babies, so you learn to save and sacrifice. However, a lot of seniors are also financially inexperienced. It may be because they lost that partner who used to handle those kinds of things. They might be financially insecure, dependent only on Social Security or not even that, or be on a fixed income, or a call from somebody who says that you've won the Publishers Clearinghouse or Mega Millions sweepstake or lottery. Sounds like a pretty good thing, even though those of us who know that the real Publishers Clearinghouse and the real Mega Millions will never call you on the phone. They will never contact you by email or by a text message or social media. So important to think of those reasons. We also know older adults can be intimidated easily. They might be poor witnesses because they don't have a good memory due to aging factors such as cognitive decline or Alzheimer's or other dementias, other diseases or depression that can also impact people for not wanting to report. Grooming, manipulation by the scammer to have emotional or even romantic ties with someone might make someone targeted for these kinds of things. I've had several victims that said, Debbie, I treated that person like she was my daughter. I trusted her. What we had was so close. She would contact me 4 times a day. My own kids don't do that. Or other people have said, you know, Debbie, I trusted him because while I was a veteran in World War II or Vietnam, he said that he was a veteran like me in Desert Storm or something. So because of that affinity that we have with that person, we're more likely to trust them, even if what they're saying is a lie. We're often also on guard against violent crime, not financial. When you look at the headlines of the papers or those of us that watch TV at night on the main stations, the things that are often shared are violent crimes, not financial. So we aren't prepared or taught really what to look out for. And the biggest two reasons, though, I think, is that some of us don't understand the nature of the technology being used against us. And just looking at a thing like a cell phone, many people don't know how to maybe block a call, or even how to pick up messages, or some of those kinds of things. Or how do you know if it's an authentic email versus someone that's scamming? So we may not understand a lot of those issues. Still others might be targeted because they see these opportunities to provide for their family. For example, if you did think you won a lottery or a sweepstake, it might be ways to feel important to your family again and feel like you're leaving something behind to them. It might also be feeling like you've got hope. If you want that one last intimate relationship, you want someone to grow old with, to have that connection or a reason to get up in the morning. Those can all be reasons why older folks are targeted. What we want you to do in all cases, and this is your big takeaway, please, report these crimes to these federal agencies in addition to the police. It's very important to report to the Internet Crime Complaint Center, and that's actually sponsored or monitored by the FBI, as well as the Federal Trade Commission at ftc.gov. Those are 2 important databases. They, at this time, do not talk to each other, so I encourage you to report to both. If you've got an internet crime and you only want to report to one, please report to the FBI's Internet Crime Complaint Center. Any sworn law enforcement officer can access that, so local police can access that database. The Federal Trade Commission is open to a few more, so if it's scams by mail or phone, you want to make sure that's probably the more appropriate place to report. I want you to think of these as a library of complaints. And what happens is all these complaints are gathered together, and that's where our statistics on the numbers of these kinds of crimes happening. But it's so much more as well. Let's imagine that you're a detective in Miami Beach and that you've got some victims in Florida. By accessing the Internet Crime Complaint Center or the Federal Trade Commission's website and going onto their databases, you can actually find victims out here in Camarillo or Thousand Oaks or Ventura County or Los Angeles. As long as that information is in there and people have listed things like all the account numbers, the amounts of the loss, any contact information they have on their scammers, I want you to think like a detective when you're filling those things out. And your report might be useful to a law enforcement officer in another state to include you as a victim, and you would be providing them leads on what they need to solve a case. So please be aware of these as additional reporting. We also ask that you keep all your documentation, all your correspondence, any kind of text messages or emails that you have with the scammers, and receipts are definitely important. Now, these are important for a lot of reasons, and if you've been caught up in one of these things, you're often embarrassed and ashamed and angry, and you may not want to hang on to these things. You may want to get rid of them. I urge you to keep them. put them in a box and put them up on the top shelf of your closet, hide them under your bed, somewhere where you don't have to look at them. Change your phone number if you need to, change your emails, but hang on to these things, because if you are contacted by law enforcement, those will be very important to them. You want to download a copy of the report when you can as well, because that might be useful for you when you're dealing with creditors or additional contacts with the police or other reasons. So the common types of scams that we're going to talk about today are just, I could go on and do this for 2 hours, but we only have limited time. So we're going to talk about romance imposter scams, lottery and sweepstakes scams, what we call tech support or computer repair scams, government and other imposter scams, and COVID-related scams. And if you were here with me personally, I'd probably have you raise your hand if you've heard of each of those, but unfortunately we can't kind of do that today. I also like to have victims come in and talk, or victims' family members come in and talk about different scams. So my way of doing that today is to present videos to you so you can kind of see vignettes that kind of do probably a better job than I can of explaining some of these. So we'll go through some of those as well. First one I want to talk about is an online romance imposter scam. And these are very, very common now, especially during COVID. We're seeing these numbers increasing. And one of the reasons is because as people self-quarantine or kind of isolated from our so-called real life of going out to meet people for friends or coffee or meeting new people online locally, we often can't do that anymore. And the scammers know that. So one of the ways they are contacting us to try to steal money is in these online dating scams. And it's actually the number one loss amount, but number one fraud by loss amount, the amounts of money that is stolen, both reported to the Federal Trade Commission as well as the FBI. So the amounts can be staggering. And these are what they call a long con. So they don't just steal money once, they'll keep stealing it as long as they can get away with it. Signs of an online scam: they're going to profess their love quickly. You might be on a Words with Friends or a Scrabble website that you're playing with people that are strangers. You might get befriended on Facebook or Instagram by somebody that said, oh, I just liked your picture. And you start, a friendship with that. Oftentimes it's also on the dating sites. But what's going to happen, it's going to move quickly from friendship to love, and almost love too quickly. It's almost like a love bombing where you're just constantly being charmed or seduced or just, given nice words and wonderful things that they have to say about you, words that you might not be hearing from other people. Oftentimes these people will claim to be from the United States, but they're also going to claim to be overseas for business or military service, or because they're doing some wonderful relief effort abroad. And so they're sacrificing and their ability to see you for these great things that they're doing. What they're going to be doing is luring you off the dating sites, luring you off the game sites, luring you off Facebook and Instagram, and getting you onto sites. And some of the sites they often use, Google Hangouts and WhatsApp. Those aren't as closely monitored, and those are frequently things that scammers use. A couple of the websites, the messenger type sites that they use. They're going to claim they need money, and those amounts are going to escalate, whether it's emergencies, hospital bills, travel. The biggest one I think we see is for business loans or money that they need to do something. Oftentimes they pretend to be in the military and they need money to do this or that for the military. All these aren't true. And again, they're going to plan to visit, but they always can't because of an emergency. And we've had many, many victims that report going to the airport actually to pick up this the new loved one, the love of their life, only to find out they're not coming. So we're going to show a brief video on this and kind of further explain this crime.
Initially, he would read my wall, I would read his wall, we would post things. He would like things, I would like things. Then it got to, we would just share emails. We started sharing pictures. I knew that just based on the conversations that we'd had, that he was someone that I would like to meet. I felt a real soul connection with him right away. And we sang to each other, we prayed with each other. We'd talk about what happened at church on Sunday. There wasn't an immediate talk about getting together. He was trying to finish up a job in California, and he needed some money to help finish that job up. And so I sent him. I thought about it long and hard, I prayed about it, and I've always been a very giving person. And I figured if I had money in the account, that I could send him some money, and he promised to have it back within 24, 48 hours. And I thought, could do that. No one would ever know. and I'd be okay. But, you know, one thing kept happening after another. He'd need more money because he was coming in over budget. Things didn't get done on time. You know, he needed a lawyer. He had to take a money loan and it needed to be paid back. Part of me thinks that he's going to come through and pay me back what he owes me and, you know, swoop in here, be the knight in shining armor. But it's just so absurd that there's a big part of me that doesn't believe that. And that is where this is all so pitiful, is because if he's a scammer, I've been so brainwashed and I've lost everything. It's all I had. It's any inheritance that I could have passed on to my daughter. The loss of money was my future, and knowing that I wouldn't have to work, that I could just make it to the ripe old age of whatever and be perfectly comfortable. The loss that I've suffered emotionally, I think, has even been more traumatic. I can't even imagine a man, a person that could be this bad. So I think of him, I can't think of him that way. My mind keeps me from thinking of him that way because there can't be a man in this world that could be this horrible, to have purposefully done what he's done to me. I don't want this to happen to anybody else. If they're real and if the love is real, they're going to want to see you as soon as possible. I mean, it's been 2.5 years and I still haven't seen his face. Initially,
So very, very tragic kinds of crimes when these happen. And again, I called it the long, it's going to go on from weeks to months to even years. And it's very, very difficult for someone that's caught up in it to realize that they are being scammed. So you really need a kind of a gentle but firm touch when you're trying to work with someone that's caught up in this. We'll share some of the resources. We're very fortunate in Ventura County to have a support group to help people that are victims of this. So if you know someone or are someone, reach out, there's help, okay? We won't go into each of these, but these are the ways that you can spot sometimes a romance predator, which is what I like to call them. If you meet someone online, text, or even by phone who wants you to leave that dating site immediately and use, again, the WhatsApp or Google Hangouts with other ways to communicate with you, they might make a lot of spelling and grammar mistakes when communicating, often because they're using these scripts, and often because the kind of place where these originated was actually in parts of Africa, and it's since spread all over the world. So a lot of times their English isn't real good. They might send you a photo that looks like something from a glamour magazine or a military photo, something. Again, we talked about the love bombing. They're planning to visit, but they cancel at the last minute. They'll always make excuses why they can't talk to you over the phone, or they will say, if they do talk to you, because our technology is getting better, they'll have pictures that move with lips, but they don't match the conversation. It would be like me talking to you now and having it say something totally different. So that's something that you can watch out for. They're going to ask for money for all kinds of things. And I've even had, they're being held hostage and they need money, and people calling just frightened to death for their loved one when it's all a lie. Again, they're going to keep asking for money until they drain you. They've got a pretty good idea how much you owe, how much you own, who your friends are, who your family is. They know all of that, and they will use that against you in every way they can, especially when you've figured out that they are scammers. For men especially, they're going to ask for sexual images, but women too. With men, it's usually much quicker. To share your love, to kind of show proof of that. They're going to later use those things to extort you. We call that sextortion, or make other threats to share that with your family and friends or your church or your work when you no longer comply with their requests for money. So these are really devious, awful people, like your victim that we talked about said. So what do? You want to first of all, be careful friending strangers online. Stay on the dating sites if you're on one. Keep your settings on private so that strangers can't just kind of befriend you on things like Facebook and Instagram. You can always do an online search to cross-check the person's name. Do just a Google image search to find out information. If you're on Facebook and you put that in and you find out they don't have any other friends, or all their friends live in, some other place, that's a pretty good sign that you're talking to a scammer and not a real person. And that what's happened is that real person's image has been stolen. Which is what also happens. The U.S. Army has a warning. There's so many of these people pretending to be militaries because, let's face it, women, we really like guys that look good in uniforms, right? So Army has a wonderful website up there where you can look for tips to know that, how these images are being used by scammers. Military members will never ask for money for things, especially to get home or to help doing things. Real quickly, the U.S. Embassy in each country is also able to help Americans overseas if they're a real American, even with loans for tickets home. So there's no reason somebody should be telling you that. If you're suspicious, slow down. Talk to somebody you trust about this kind of thing. Check in with them, or you can contact the National Elder Fraud Hotline, which I'm going to be providing you the number for. And you need to recognize when a romance scammer is trying to isolate you from your friends and family, or rush you or pressure you into making impulsive decisions like giving money or sending pictures. Slow down, take control. So we're next talk about lottery and sweepstakes scams. So you think you won $20 million? When I first started doing this, the scammers were saying it was 1 or 2 million, but they're up to more like the 20s and 30 million now. I guess that's the inflation in this. Let's hear from somebody who was an attempted scam victim that you might not expect.
I get more calls than you would anticipate, and this one sounded like I had won something, congratulations and so forth.
The total value of the award is about 72 million.
72?
72 million. You're the first place winner. And the reason why they selected you to give you this amount, because I do some of your background check. I know that you was a judge, you was a lawyer, you was in the U.S. Navy, Homeland Security, and the basketball team, and all of those stuff. I do your background check.
In this particular case, I think my wife heard me having the conversation, and she was protesting in her own sweet way that my playing around with somebody like that don't string him along. Later, I don't know how the conversation turned sour, but it did. And at that point, he shifted gears, and instead of sweet talk, he began to threaten her.
Hey, I know you're playing around, right? You know what I'm going to do? I won't call you back. I'm going to kill you. I'm going to kill your husband. I'm going to set your house on fire because you seem to be playing around and you doesn't know who am I. So listen, I'm not giving you any more warning. I'm just going to send out my guys and listen. Anytime you put back yourself in Washington, D.C., you'll be killed. Look, a sniper, I know you're home. You see, you live, the place where you're home at, you live at a very lonely place. And the moment you arrive, I'm going to put a shot in your head. I'm going to burn your house down. I don't play.
As time went along, I learned how significant the victimization of older people was, and that worried me. I was older myself enough to be sympathetic with how older people without my maybe background experience might react to situation. The average older person doesn't get caught in a bind where the screws are turning on them. They think something good is happening. They want to believe it. They find out it's not going to happen. They've often paid some money in order to get something that that was explained was needed in order to go take the next step and to get bigger sums of money coming their way. Older people like to think they're still valuable for one reason or another, regardless of what they've done. It was a game, whatever it was, they were able to be convinced that they were about to get something good to show they were still in the money.
So I wanted to share that with you. I think it's important to know, again, the way that we found those victims was they had filed a report with the Federal Trade Commission or the Internet Crime Complaint Center. So again, very important, in addition to the police, to notify those national databases. And who knows, you may get that call back from a detective or an agent saying, hey, we're after this guy. So I wanted to share that. Excuse the dogs in the background. For lottery and sweepstakes scams, it usually begins with a paid solicitation. So it's usually now, you don't see the mailings so much anymore. It might be social media. We still get a lot of people on phone calls, emails, texts, saying that you've won this great prize. Oftentimes they do impersonate Publishers Clearinghouse or Mega Millions. Really important to know, you never are required to send money for taxes or any kind of fees. You never have to pay money in advance if you really won one of these prizes. And victims can be ensnared in these kind of things for just years. They're going to ask for small amounts at first, and then they're going to keep escalating it with more and more money, encourage you to borrow money, and oftentimes send you counterfeit checks. There is no grand prize ever, so they do not have any money. So anyone that's calling you or contacting you, telling you that you won this money over the phone or an email, remember, it's against the law to participate in foreign lotteries. You never have to pay in advance if you've won. Report it to the police, report it to the FTC and IC3. Report it to your bank if you're wiring money at all, and ask for a fraud alert or even a security freeze. Be prepared for future solicitations. They are going to try to reach you again. Once they've been successful one time, they're going to they keep asking for money. I want to talk briefly about being a money mule, and I didn't usually add this before, but we are seeing so much of this happen with crimes, especially with romance crimes, lotteries, some of the tech supports and all, where victims are often recruited to be what they call money movers or a money mule. And they actually are groomed by scammers to serve kind of as a in-between piece, to accept money and further transfer it to kind of hide the scammer and insulate them. They're often recruited by college students or people with disabilities, those unemployed, older folks, military spouses, online ads. Oftentimes those are ways that people can be recruited. And basically you're just asked maybe to collect money or to open up a bank account and forward it. Or if you're involved in one of these online relationships, you might think that you're doing that for a business deal for your online partner. That's going to enable him to come back and be with you. So you open up a bank account or you forward money that you receive that's actually coming from other victims, but that's not what they're telling you it is. So again, be very, very careful of these kinds of things. Money mules are being prosecuted if we realize that they're winning money mules, getting some money out of it, and realizing what they're doing is illegal. Here's a brief example of that.
86-year-old Herman Coe is getting ready for his dialysis treatment, and all he can think about is a huge loss.
Instead of keeping yourself depressed, I'll try really to more or less to forget it.
A caller told him he won $3 million. Just pay the taxes and fees.
We're having trouble hearing this one.
Check. The first time he sent
I'm not sure I
$5,000.
could.
But that was just the beginning, when his savings account was empty.
And I'm not sure I can do anything on that other than turn up your own sounds, maybe?
Yeah, it's just quieter than the other ones. We'll try to listen
Savings
carefully.
account was empty. The scammers kept hounding him.
Since I don't have anymore, so they recommend to take the 401k. They say you will get it back because we are representing the government. Of course, that isn't a lie anyway. So I did.
He had cashed out his retirement, insurance plans, any kind of savings that he had. He had opened a home equity loan. He had maxed out his credit cards.
Herman lost a total of $500,000 in the lottery scam, and it still wasn't over. Postal inspectors say the conman convinced him to be a money mule. Other victims would send Mr. Coe their fake payments when they were told they won the lottery too.
Really, he was just a filter so that they could launder the money through his accounts, and then he would send it up to Canada to the bad guys.
Inspectors say the elderly are prime targets for these heartless thugs because it's hard for them to keep track of their finances. Herman's loss was very painful, but his lesson has a lot of value.
I get after that many phone calls, very bad ones, but I ignore it.
So again, be really, really careful of these. And ways to avoid a money mule scam: never use your own bank account or open one in your name to transfer money for an online employer, to collect a prize, or to, move any money out of to get your winnings, or especially in the romance scam kind of things, or a tech support kind of crime. If you spot this kind of thing, break off contact immediately. Notify your bank if you've been wiring money that way that you believe it's a scam, so they can look into it, and then file that report with IC3 and contact your local police and the Federal Trade Commission. So again, next crime we're going to talk about is tech support, and this another word for that is computer repair. So a lot of you have probably gotten these phone calls where somebody says that they're from Apple or Microsoft, and there's a problem with your computer. So let's see what happens on this.
Scammers pose as big-name companies. They call or send pop-up messages to scare you about the security of your computer.
We've gotten warnings of viruses in your area. Your computer has been affected. First, download this software so I can delete the dangerous programs.
They're good at pretending to be someone they're not because they want something that isn't theirs, your money. No matter what they say, they haven't found anything wrong with your machine. They just want you to pay for software or tech support services you don't need. If someone pressures you, slow down and think it through. Don't give out your financial information, and don't let anyone take control of your computer. Report imposter scams to ftc.gov/imposters.
And of course, also report to the Internet Crime Complaint Center. So what the more formal name for this is tech support crimes. And what we find is older adults are the most vulnerable in this, and that this is the serious online fraud crime that's most likely to succeed. Reports are 5 times higher than other age groups, and these are more a year. There's several ways that the crime gets started. It often may start with a pop-up like we show on the right-hand side of the screen here, or it might be a blue screen or this kind of a warning that shows up on your computer telling you to, click on it, and it'll tell you what to do. There's guidance that's provided on my PowerPoint that you can come back and look on these sheets if you get caught up in one of these. But what's going to happen is they're going to tell you to call this 800 number. So you call the number, the toll-free number, call them immediately. They're going to threaten you and say that, there's terrible things happening to your computer, and you might lose everything, all your family pictures, all your financial transactions, everything you're going to lose if you don't do what they want you to do. So they're going to ask for remote access to your computer or your cell phone, whatever, and pretend to run a diagnostic test. After they've done that, they're going to tell you that they found this terrible thing on your computer that's really got to be fixed and only they can do it, and they're going to try to sell you that repair service or one of their subscriber services. Don't do it. It's worthless. You may already have coverage for this kind of thing. They may be trying to fix a problem that doesn't even exist. There's really nothing wrong with your computer. And they may install malware or worse kinds of things. So you really want to back off. So here's a bunch of don'ts, and I hate being so don't on this talk, but there's a lot of don'ts, and we'll finish up with some do's. If you get this kind of a pop-up or a call or a spam email telling you stop, take control, don't click on the links or call that number, hang up on them if they call you, don't send any money or make a wire transfer, don't pay with a gift card or give your bank account or credit card information like the picture is of this man right here. Don't give them control of your computer. Legitimate companies will never contact you by phone to tell you that there's this kind of a problem or do a pop-up in this way. Maintain your security software. We're going to talk about some of those things, and again, report it. So the next thing I want to talk about is government and other imposter scams. The callers, you've probably had these too. They might say that they're from the IRS or Social Security. They may even show their agency name. You may see an IRS or Social Security if you check caller ID. So you're going to think, boy, that's legit. And maybe even they'll give you a badge number and have your last 4 digits of your Social Security number. So by then, when you get a call like this or a text message and told that you owe money and that you have to pay now or you're going to be arrested because your taxes are due or you didn't pay them or your Social Security number has been suspended, you're going to be fearful and you might just think that maybe you should pay. Please don't. Take control. They're going to ask you to put money on a prepaid debit card or ask for your credit card or a Bitcoin or ATM or wire it. They might ask you to stay on that cell phone and drive until you can get that prepaid debit card or a gift card until that payment is made. Don't do it. If you pay, you're going to find out it wasn't the IRS, it wasn't Social Security, it wasn't your bank telling you that there's a problem with your account, it wasn't a computer company, it wasn't a sheriff telling you that you missed your jury duty and you're going to be arrested, or your utility company telling you that they're going to do shut off because they didn't receive your payment. All these are very common. The other common one we're seeing now is with Netflix and Amazon or other accounts saying that your account is closed, or that there's a package to be delivered. This is a frequent one we see by text now. And they want you to click on the link to renew that service or schedule that package. Don't do it. Take control. These are all scams. And here's an example of someone that got caught up in one of these.
I got a phone call. Someone identified himself as a representative of the Social Security office, and that a warrant, a no bail warrant, had been issued for my arrest. I'm 83 years old and it scared me to death.
The Social Security imposter scam is very widespread right now. What these scammers are trying to do is they're trying to induce a state of fear. They're trying to make you feel very, very panicked.
They actually said federal authorities, including an armed marshal, would appear at my door within the next 24 hours. That had me sort of feeling jittery.
Sometimes they'll ratchet up that anxiety by telling you that there are marshals or police officers or sheriff's deputies that are about to arrest you. That's very, very scary for people. So what they're doing is they're playing on your fear, on your anxiety, and on you wanting to do the right thing. That's how they're going to next try to control the next actions that you take.
And they told me to get in my car, drive to the store, and get a Google Play card and put the $500 on it and give them the number.
Once they've got those PIN numbers, they've got your money. So how do you take control back? Well, the first thing you want to do is just stop and take a breath. Take a moment and say, okay, thanks for the call. I need to investigate what's going on here. Hang up the phone. Go talk with somebody that you trust. Do a search on the internet.
When it happens, let other people know, because the more that it's talked about, the better armed people are to behave assertively when somebody's behaving aggressively toward them.
Since then, I have told everyone that I know and a whole lot of people that I don't know.
This scam is hitting all parts of the United States, and it is hitting people at every age level, every education level, every income level. If this isn't happening to you, this is happening to your neighbors. This is happening in your community. So, if it does happen to you, please talk about it. We know that when people are familiar with scams, they are much less likely to lose money. Report it to the FTC.
So, protecting yourself from all kinds of imposter scams. First of all, the federal government will never initiate a call asking for your Social Security number. They'll never ask for a payment by gift card or wire transfer, and won't make any kind of requests or threats over the phone like this. Social Security cards can't be suspended. File these reports. And again, we're going to provide you information on the National Elder Fraud Hotline if you want advice or help, or you aren't sure if you're dealing with a scammer. Take control in all of these kinds of scams we're talking about. Don't send money in any form. Never wire money in the ways that we talked about here, putting money on a gift card, Bitcoin ATM, sending cash to an unlive interest. You won't get that money back no matter what they say. Don't share your personal information like driver's license, passport, Social Security numbers, bank account numbers. Just don't believe these. Don't believe if you're signing an online contract that that's going to be enforceable in that way if you're dealing with some of these folks. And again, don't share your sexual images or videos of yourself because you're not sure what's going to happen with them when you've done it. If you've sent that money, contact your bank, your financial institution, and let them know, especially if you wired money through them. Report it to your police department, IC3 and the FTC, and also block contact and seek further support. Just a couple more slides now. I want to talk real quickly about COVID-related scams. The Ventura County Area Agency on Aging has some wonderful resources for COVID, as the Ventura County Department of Public Health. So you can learn more about COVID scams on their website. The Federal Trade Commission also has some great information on COVID-related scams, and they can be contacted. This is one of their handouts, so we're going to talk briefly, just real quickly, about what you can do to avoid some of these kind of scams. What you can do is learn how to tell the difference, for example, between a real contact tracer and a scammer. The real ones are going to seek only health information from you. There may be others that contacted you, especially I think by text now, asking for personal financial information or money. You don't want to respond to texts or emails or calls about stimulus checks from the government. Ignore offers for miracle treatments or cures or prevention products, including tests for test kit advertisements. The scammers may be selling products without the FTC's approval or proof that they work. Many test kits haven't been approved by the Federal Drug Administration and may not be accurate. Hang up on any robocalls that you get dealing with COVID. They may be selling low-priced health insurance, work-at-home schemes. Again, some of these miracle offers, avoid them. Just hang up or screen your calls. Watch for emails or calls claiming to be from the Federal Trade Commission or the Center for Disease Control or the World Health Organization. Don't click on these links that you don't know. And research before you donate. A lot of scammers are now taking images from real people that are nurses and doctors and using those and trying to get people to invest in their charities or to be involved with them as a romance kind of thing. The images are fake. They're taken from real people that the scammers are using. Research before you get involved. Ways to avoid COVID-19 scams. Vaccination details are being settled, and some of this is just starting to happen here in Ventura County. Here's what you can be sure of. The most important thing is contact your doctor. That's going to be the legitimate source to find out when you might be able to get a vaccine, how and which vaccine, all that kind of information. You can't pay to put your name on a list to get the vaccine. If you get that kind of a question or somebody wanting that, it's a scam. You can't pay to get early access to the vaccine. That's going to be a scam too. Or someone who has access to the vaccine that's doing it illegally. Nobody legitimate is going to call about the vaccine and ask for your Social Security, your bank account number, or credit card numbers, or PayPal or PayPal. That's a scam. Ignore these offers that say something different, and again, always go through your doctor. How to stay safe online. Got one more quick video and then a couple resources and we'll be done.
Every day you hear about scammers, hackers, and thieves trying to use the internet to steal your money and your financial information. The fact is, you, me, we can foil many of their attempts. Every day we do things to make it tough for bad guys to break into our homes and our cars. We can make it tougher for them to break into our computers, too. Here are some ways to foil a hacker and protect your financial information. Install security software on your computer. Well-known companies offer plenty of free options. Set the software to update automatically, so it can deal with any new security threats. While you're at it, set your operating system and web browser to update automatically too. If you're not sure how, use the help function and search for automatic updates. If you get a phone call, an email, a text, or a pop-up that says your computer has a virus or malware, don't buy the story or the security software they're selling. It could be a trick to get you to buy software that's worthless or even harmful. Treat your financial information like cash. It's a hot commodity. If someone asks for your financial information, say your Social Security, credit card, or bank account number, ask why they need it and how they're going to protect it. If you think you found a good deal online, but you aren't familiar with the company, dig a little deeper. A quick internet search with the name of the company and the word review or complaint can reveal a lot. Always look for a physical address and phone number too. That way you know who to contact if there's a problem. Don't provide your personal or financial information unless the website you're on is secure. If the URL doesn't start with HTTPS, don't enter your financial information. That S stands for secure. It means the information you're sending is encrypted and protected. Make your passwords count. They should be at least 10 characters and a mix of numbers, letters, and special characters. Don't use your name, birth date, or common words. Don't use the same password for several accounts, as tempting as that may be. If it's stolen, hackers can use it to access your other accounts. Keep your passwords in a secure place and don't share them with anyone. Back up your computer files. For example, copy important files to an external hard drive on a regular basis. That way, if there's a problem with your computer, you won't lose everything. Life is online, whether you live it using a smartphone, a tablet, a laptop, or a desktop. It's a good time to make computer security a habit. Find out more at onguardonline.gov.
So, real quickly, just to sum up, where to report these scams: the Internet Crime Complaint Center, Federal Trade Commission. Important to report to those databases in addition to the police. So I often get asked, what about that do not call list? And if I had you here in front of me, I'd ask you, does that work? And you'd all raise your hands and say, heck no, that doesn't work. I get all kinds of calls. So I want to spend just a minute on that. First of all, the do not call list is not a block. The federal government is not blocking calls when you get on that registry. What it is instead is it's an actual registry. Think of it as a library where legitimate businesses are supposed to check the library to make sure that your book or your number is in that library. Then they're not supposed to call you. So that's all it really is a registry, not a block. So what happens is it really is working, because if you get phone calls from people and you've signed up on this do not call list, and I show you where you can do that, actually what those are is criminals, or at least it's businesses that aren't checking the list to see that you're on it. So you shouldn't be talking to them. So really keep that in mind. It's a real easy way to check. And the best thing is just, screen your calls and don't take calls unless it's somebody that you know. How to find help? This is one of the more important slides on here. The National Elder Fraud Hotline is a new hotline that the Department of Justice has, 1-833-72. You can talk to them 7 days a week. They've got really long hours. Anyone 60 or plus, if you're concerned that you're caught up in a fraud, if you're not sure what to do, this is the #1 place I urge you to go to. They speak many languages there, and it's a wonderful place to get help and support. They will even help you file those reports with the Internet Crime Complaint Center and the Federal Trade Commission if that's too tough for you to do yourself. And then finally, Senior Concerns, a wonderful resource. You've seen that they can help with things like even buying groceries, helping with food, some of those kinds of things during this awful COVID time. Ventura County Area Agency on Aging has some additional resources, including a wonderful agency called HICAP within them that can help you with any kind of healthcare issues. If you feel you're being defrauded, or there's something on your invoice for your Medicare report of services that doesn't make sense, 211 Ventura is a great resource as well to find out about all kinds of resources and programs and COVID help and where to get tested. Adult Protective Services can be important as well. If you know someone that's age 18 to 64 that's a vulnerable adult and in need of help, or someone that's 65 and older and is being exploited or abused or neglected, that's the agency that can help. Cyber Seniors, I wish I had more time to talk about. They're a wonderful agency. You can just go on their website and explore it. But they have all kinds of classes every day that you can join in on to learn all kinds of different things, and even chats with people from all over the world. They also have a way that you can join by phone and learn how to do things like Zoom meetings and other kinds of things. So it's a wonderful thing. If you are caught up in a cybercrime, fraudsupport.org and onguardonline.gov are great. And if you are one of those people that are caught up in a romance scam, contact the Romance Scam Support Group at the Coalition for Family Harmony. It's an ongoing group that's been going on for a couple years, and they also have individual free counseling for you. So again, I want to thank you. I urge you to stop and think before you connect with a cyber stranger. Take control of that situation and pass these scam tips on to others. And I'm available for questions as long as you need me.
Thank you so much. That was incredibly useful, jam-packed with a lot of really good information. And I'm already thinking about things that I need to change passwords on. So that's always a good reminder as well. So I do have a couple of questions and comments that have come in.
Okay.
I was going to go back. There was one here that I didn't want to miss that was asking about when you get emails that are incredibly inappropriate, that have disgusting sexual words. This person knows not to open them and just deletes them, but they keep showing up every day. Is there any way to help get rid of them?
I would just, there's a place that you can report. Let me think what I can, it's called spam@uce.gov, spam@uce.gov. So when you know you're getting them, what you can do, don't open them, because if you open them, you're confirming that your email is good. So you never want to open something that you think is a scam. But you can forward that email to spam@uce.gov, and that's actually a Federal Trade Commission site to receive spam emails. So I would just keep sending them to that agency. Sometimes your own internet provider will also have a way that you can block emails from certain people that are sending you emails. So you might also, it might be a way to just immediately put that in spam. And once it's in spam, you will never hopefully hear from someone using that particular email again. So sometimes your internet providers will have something like that. So that's the two suggestions I have for that.
That's great. I did not know that. Thank you. And then, yes, somebody asked, we will go ahead and email a copy of the PowerPoint to all of the registered attendees. So that will be really helpful. Then somebody got an email that looked just like one from their bank. It had the right words, right fonts, and some of the links went directly to the bank, but one of the links went to Russia. So they're suggesting that people don't click on links that is sent in an email, but go directly to the financial website itself. Is that what you recommend?
Exactly. Never link on a site, because you can actually put your cursor over it a lot of times, right where they want you to click on, and oftentimes you'll see up above what it really is, and it's not, like I was being asked to contact Bank of America, and once I put on that click that says Bank of America, I look and it might be, again, that Russian site or that site from Malaysia or some other place. So yes, do not click on sites like that.
Thank you. And somebody is saying, can you notify the Shumash Casino that a gambler has Alzheimer's?
A gambler has what?
Alzheimer's disease.
Ah.
Therefore, probably should not be gambling.
That's probably something you may want to do that if that's someone that you know. Yeah, and they might have those kind of interventions for those folks. And then I know there's programs online like Gamblers Anonymous, and I believe the state of California even has a connection with a program for gamblers. So you might take a look and just go online for some of those resources. But I think Gamblers Anonymous will give you also maybe some help for them.
Thank you. And it is a tough one, because if that person that has Alzheimer's is, how are they getting to the casino? Is there anybody helping to supervise them in their financial situation otherwise, even separate from the casino? So that is something that you might want to reach out to one of our social workers at Senior Concerns, because it might be that that person needs some other assistance in their day-to-day life and managing their finances.
Definitely.
So somebody says, Debbie, this presentation is great. Is it offered in other counties beside Ventura, or are there other organizations doing something similar?
There are. It's like I know it's funny because I get a lot of emails and I'm trying to think of where a lot of them come from for the public. I know AARP is doing quite a few of these kinds of things, so you might want to check with them. The Better Business Bureau would be another one that would be doing things, perhaps. Those are two that come to mind right away.
Okay, thank you. Again, people asking, the recording will be on the Senior Concerns website, but what I can do is I will upload it probably tomorrow. So I'll just wait, and when I send everybody the email that includes a copy of the presentation, I'll also include the link so that you can view the recording or share it with anybody else that you think would benefit from it. What about inappropriate text messages? Now that's something I've recently started getting, and I never did before. So I don't click to open the text, I just kind of side swipe and delete it. Is there any way to get rid of those?
I think that those you would also send to scams@uce.gov. But best to just delete them and move on. And if you can block it, block it.
Okay.
They just want you to click on it, because once you click on it, then they know you're real, and they can use that information for all kinds of things.
Wow. Oh my gosh, someone says, I just got a pop-up while you were talking that said we can order a background check on you to get your personal records.
Oh my goodness, yeah. Obviously someone has done that in the past, and I think once you're on there that people can connect and do that. So you're welcome to do that. I think you have to pay if you do it, but you're not going to find anything. I've had a pretty boring life.
Wow. And someone asked, how do you volunteer for your group? I guess my question is, which group is it that you want to volunteer for?
Well, I'm assuming they're talking about FAST, and the FAST team is actually at this point a group just for professionals that kind of are already involved in the work of working on elder abuse and people with disabilities, kinds of financial abuse. My dream is, and before COVID, one of my hopes was to start some kind of a scam squad, perhaps to work in senior centers or something. So Martha, if you could get their name and something and just forward that to me, if we ever get back to a real world again where we're doing those kinds of things, I would love to have your name, because my dream is, like I said, to have every senior center bombarded, and maybe even libraries with scam squads where we can go out and just help folks with this kind of thing.
Sure, that's a great idea. So Maxine says that Verizon says they can't do anything about the emails on the cell phone. There's no way to block or remove them. So again, I think that's just forward them to this.
Yeah, if you could do that, and also just delete them, and so that you're not bothered by them, and just know that's part of 21st century life, you know.
That's part of 21st century life. I guess that is just the world we live in now. It's true. So we have to learn to tune them out a little bit, I guess. Great. I think we've answered all the questions. If anybody had anything I've missed, please let me know, or feel free to send me an email to follow up. But just know that hopefully by tomorrow, I will send you all an email with a copy of the presentation, as well as a link to view the recording of this seminar. And I thank you all for coming, and I really thank Debbie for sharing her time with us. She clearly knows what she's talking about and has such useful information to help protect and keep us all safe. I did want to let you know about our next seminar that will be on Tuesday, February 16th, and that one will be presented by the Housing Rights Center. We've been getting a lot of questions from both landlords and tenants about eviction issues, special accommodations. There's been so many changes to, we hear about eviction moratoriums and they're expiring, and what's coming next. So this will be on February 16th, and they'll talk about all of these issues, fair housing laws, including protections for families and accommodations for disabilities. So please, you can go on to the Senior Concerns website to sign up for that next seminar. And let me just check. Yes, you just take those emails and you forward it to spam@uce.gov. Perfect. Then I thank you. I thank you so much, Debbie, for joining us. And I hope that everybody has a wonderful evening and stays safe.
Thank you.